Deep in the jungle, a tourist named Emma got hurt, was alone and in danger. Then a huge gorilla appeared and did something that amazed the whole village. Emma Thompson loved wildlife and peaceful forests. As a city girl, she had never been truly cut off from civilization until now. She missed her GPS more than expected. Poor phone service forced her to use a compass, which she'd only learned to use a few days earlier. She was definitely lost. The beautiful bird sounds and misty air made her want to keep going. She should have turned back earlier, but the scenery was breathtaking. A few miles in, she met villagers returning from a nearby stream. They greeted each other, and she mentally noted the stream as a landmark for her return. Now she wasn't sure she could find it again. Deeper in the jungle, Emma felt tired. She was walking in circles and had used up her energy. While drinking from her water bottle, a threatening growl nearby froze her with fear. Her eyes widened as she listened. Carefully. The growl sounded hurt, making her feel sympathy instead of fear. Emma faced a choice: run for safety or help something that needed her. Her adventurous spirit whispered this might be her chance to help the wild world she'd entered. As the growls got louder, Emma stood up and walked toward them. With each step, she moved closer to the distressed sounds. Finally, she saw what was making the noise. She gasped at the terrible scene. A huge silverback gorilla was caught in a cruel trap, fighting against a tight net. The sight shocked Emma. The trapped gorilla was now at her mercy. She had to decide: help the magnificent animal escape or turn away to avoid danger from the poachers who set the trap. But humans weren't the only threat. How would the gorilla react to her? Emma was sure the beast knew humans were responsible for its suffering. Would it attack her when she got close? As Emma thought about this, the gorilla made a unique sound that seemed to go beyond normal animal calls. It was a plea for help that echoed through the jungle. Emma's heart broke. She moved closer and stepped on a branch that cracked loudly. The noise echoed, and the gorilla quickly turned toward her, locking eyes with hers. Emma froze, startled. The animal looked angry and desperate. She suddenly felt approaching would be terrible. But then the gorilla growled again, its eyes softening, in a moment of shared weakness. In that look, Emma sensed a plea for freedom from the trap. She knew she should leave, but she couldn't abandon the poor creature to cruel poachers. With firm resolve, Emma stepped forward, determined to help. She pulled out a small knife, her only tool. The gorilla, seeing the metal, became more aggressive, growling and trying to show dominance even while trapped. "Easy, easy," Emma whispered softly, making gentle gestures to show she meant no harm, only freedom. The gorilla, still careful, gradually calmed as Emma approached. Kneeling down, she began carefully cutting the net around the magnificent creature. Every movement was deliberate, trying to earn trust from an animal whose instincts demanded survival. The gorilla's growl softened as Emma carefully cut the imprisoning strands. The net finally broke, and with a burst of energy, the gorilla surged forward, free from its trap. With the net cut and the gorilla liberated, Emma watched as the silverback began pacing aggressively. A shiver ran down her spine as she understood the danger. It was trying to show dominance, proving that even though she saved it, it could still overpower her if it wanted. Emma shivered. How could she seem less threatening? She remembered that Silverback saw direct eye contact as a threat, so she lowered her head and avoided looking into the gorilla's eyes. The gorilla's frustration showed in powerful displays, standing on back legs, pounding its chest with mighty hands. The jungle echoed with the sounds of raw power as the creature released its pent-up energy. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. The gorilla calmed down and settled on the jungle floor. A peaceful sound came from it, seeming to tell Emma not to fear. Puzzled, she watched as the gorilla extended its arms, asking her to come closer and look. Gathering courage, Emma carefully approached. That's when she noticed something on the gorilla's right wrist, a bracelet, and it was trying to show it to her. She moved slightly closer and read the single word written on it. As she said the name Banto, the gorilla nodded in understanding. "Bantu, is that your name?" Emma asked, amazed. Emma was confused. Who had given a wild gorilla a bracelet with its name? She thought Banto might have been part of an animal rescue center where he got his name before being released back into the wild. Quickly searching her bag, Emma found bananas she had gathered during her journey. She offered them to Banto, and the gorilla eagerly ate the fruit, creating a moment of connection between them. With a final look over his shoulder, Banto stood up, turned his back to Emma, and disappeared into the dense jungle. Puzzled and heart-pounding, Emma sat down to think about the amazing encounter. She had dared to venture into the wild and experienced a one-on-one meeting with a creature she'd only seen on television. Emma stared at the torn net, a real symbol of her role in Banto's freedom. Tired and overwhelmed by the surreal experience, Emma decided it was time to return to her apartment in the village. However, as she thought about her next move, she realized the villagers might not be the only humans she'd meet. The poachers who set the trap might have heard Banto's calls and could be coming. Urgently, Emma quickly stood up with her bag. Just as she took her first step, her worst fear began to come true. Distant rustling in the jungle hinted at approaching danger. The sounds of footsteps grew louder, revealing fierce men coming to check their trap. The poachers who had set the net to catch Banto were closing in. In heart-stopping seconds, 5 tough men emerged from the shadows, carrying machetes that gleamed in the sunlight. Their sharp gazes locked onto Emma, surprise on their faces as they questioned her presence alone in the wild. One poacher moved toward the net, discovering their trap had caught something big. As their eyes met Emma's, they realized she had let their prey go. "Did you release whatever was in our net?" one poacher demanded aggressively. Another man, less aggressive, suggested Emma seemed unlikely to release a wild animal. "She's just a woman. The jungle sounds we heard earlier were dangerous. She wouldn't have survived if she'd been responsible." However, the leader dismissed this explanation, pointing at the knife on Emma's waist. With no injuries on her, he gestured toward the messy footprints showing her wandering and interference with their captured game. The poachers realized what happened, and their anger grew as they saw Banto's clear footprints nearby, proving Emma's involvement in the gorilla's escape. Trying to hide her fear, Emma stood still, tears streaming down her face despite trying to stop them. Without mercy, the men tied her hands and loaded her into their vehicle trunk, leaving no escape. The atmosphere grew tense as the poachers prepared to transport Emma to their camp. In the confined space, Emma strained to listen to their conversation. The men's quiet tones revealed their evil intentions. They planned to lock her up and demand money from whoever wanted her back. Fear crept over Emma as she realized how serious her situation was. "We'll keep her at the camp," one poacher said. "Someone will pay good money to get her back." "What? About the gorilla?" another asked. "That's Banto. His family, including his 2 brothers, were taken by us. He was the only one rescued by a wildlife organization and released after months of healing. But once he was back in his environment, Banto started attacking our camp looking for his brothers, causing destruction and chaos." A pang of sadness gripped Emma's heart when she learned about Banto's family. Understanding the poachers' relentless pursuit of Banto, Emma understood how big her problem was. She had accidentally become involved in a dangerous web spun by those seeking to exploit the intelligence and family bonds of the very creatures she wanted to protect. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, we kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. Determined to escape, Emma planned. Hidden in her back pocket was a penknife that became her lifeline. With hands tied behind her, she skillfully got the knife without drawing attention. During a critical moment when the poacher slowed down on a steep curved road, Emma seized the opportunity. As the vehicle made the turn, she silently cut the ropes around her hands. Timing her escape perfectly, Emma jumped from the moving vehicle, hitting the ground running. The poachers, caught off guard, scrambled to chase her down the hill. With adrenaline rushing through her, Emma ran as fast as she could. However, a misstep sent her tumbling down the slope, and her vision blurred as she rolled, eventually losing consciousness. Meanwhile, the poacher leader assessed the situation and called off in the distance. The poacher leader called off his Men. Perhaps realizing the harsh terrain and the jungle's challenges, he ordered them to leave Emma alone, certain she wouldn't survive out there on her own. As Emma lay unconscious at the bottom of the hill, her fate hung in the balance, caught between the danger of humans and the wild's unpredictable mercy. Back in the village, time crawled painfully for Marcus, the guide assigned to Emma. His worry deepened with each passing hour. "She should have been back by now," he said to the village chief, eyes scanning the horizon. Alarmed, the chief didn't hesitate. He gathered a search team to head into the jungle and find the missing visitor. Emma slowly regained consciousness, her body aching as she found herself lying next to a large rock that had broken her fall. Dazed and in pain, she realized her leg was badly injured and bleeding. Mustering her strength, she propped herself up against the rock. Despite the pain, she was grateful to be free from the poachers. Reaching for her bag, she discovered she still had some water and snacks. She quickly ate what she could and drank the water, then used a napkin as a makeshift bandage to stop the bleeding, though it had already begun to clot. Pulling out her phone, she found it smashed beyond repair. Alone and injured, she faced a harsh truth. She'd have to find her way back without help. But standing was agony. Every attempt sent waves of pain shooting through her injured leg. Just then, rustling came from the bushes. Her pulse raced. Was it a wild animal drawn by her scent? Or worse, had the poachers returned, powerless to run or fight? She braced for the worst, shutting her eyes tightly as the growls grew louder. Then, a gentle tap on her shoulder. She opened her eyes slowly and gasped. Standing before her was Bantu, she whispered, astonished. The same silverback gorilla she had freed from a trap was now beside her, watching intently. Uncertain of his intentions, she recalled the poacher's words, that Bantu had once lived with humans, perhaps even been trained. Testing the theory, Emma used simple sign language to show her injured leg and her need to return home. To her amazement, Bantu responded. He understood. Without hesitation, the gorilla gently lifted her and began walking. Hours passed as they moved through the thick jungle. Night fell, but Bantu pressed on, carefully avoiding danger. Eventually, Emma recognized a stream, the same one she'd seen earlier. They were getting close. Suddenly, torchlight flashed. Through the trees, Bantu froze, sensing danger. He set Emma down and began to beat his chest, growling and pacing with clear aggression. Emma panicked for a moment, until she saw familiar faces in the flickering light. "There she is," Marcus shouted. It was the rescue team. Emma raised a hand and called out, "Marcus, wait, please step back, he's protecting me." Bantu, still distrustful, kept up his defensive display. But Emma gently signed to him again, reassuring him that these people were safe. Slowly, Bantu stepped forward, touched her hand softly, then turned and melted into the jungle. Marcus and the team, stunned by what they'd just witnessed, helped Emma to her feet and escorted her back to the village. She was treated with local medicine and traditional care. Her injured leg began to heal. 2 weeks later, Emma had recovered fully. The village buzzed with excitement. Everyone wanted to hear her story. Rumors of a wild gorilla saving a human had already spread. Sitting with the village chief and Marcus, she recounted the incredible journey. "I know it sounds unbelievable," she said, "but that gorilla saved my life after I saved his." The villagers listened in awe. Her story was more than adventure. It was a warning. The poachers were a threat not only to wildlife, but to them as well. Moved by her testimony, the village chief acted quickly. He contacted authorities and gave them details Emma remembered about the poachers' camp. Acting fast, law enforcement moved in. Not far from the described area, they found the hideout and captured the gang. "We've been searching for these criminals for months," the lead officer told the village chief. "Thanks to her, we finally got them." Emma had become an unexpected hero, her courage helping dismantle a ring of wildlife criminals. As her departure approached, Emma stood quietly outside her temporary home. She would miss the peace of the jungle, The warmth of the villagers, and most of all the memory of a silverback who'd shown her the wild, could hold both danger and compassion. She thought of Bantao, now free in a safer jungle, unburdened by fear of poachers. Her heart swelled with hope. Would he remember her? She believed he would. Did you enjoy this story? What would you do if you came across a wild animal in trouble? Would you have the courage to help like Emma did? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like. Kindness to animals always finds its way back to us. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.